Everyone was taken aback by Halle Berry's response when Van Hunt proposed to her. She has been with him for 5 years, yet she still refuses to get married. She learned a bitter lesson about love from 3 unsuccessful marriages. She is creating a covert business empire while paying thousands of dollars a month to 2 distinct ex-husbands. Music. She is more powerful and wealthy than ever at the age of 58. However, a medical error nearly permanently damaged her self-esteem. The real reason she refuses to be married again gives away everything about her previous relationships. On August 14, 1966, Halle Berry was born in Cleveland. And this mixture of pressure and contrast in her life from the beginning molded her into everything she became. Her mother, Judith Ann Hawkins, was a psychiatric nurse with a strong German and English heritage. Born into an African-American family, her father, Jerome Jesse Berry, was a hospital attendant. For a brief while, it seemed like a stable beginning because both parents worked at the same hospital. However, the prevailing culture in America at the time made a biracial family stand out in ways that a child shouldn't have to witness. Heiss' parents divorced when she was 4 years old, and she and her older sister Heidi moved to Oakwood, a predominantly white suburb, with their mother. It was then that she felt the burden of being different. It trailed her into playgrounds, schools, and halls. For a lot of days, she was the only black girl, music, around. Bullying began early and persisted frequently, pushing her daily to be tough even when she wanted to be tender. In an effort to provide her girls with a childhood that included some music, feeling of security, her mother remained steadfast as a single parent. Halle was constantly reminded that she was an outsider, nevertheless. Behind closed doors, the reality of her early years wounded even more deeply. At the age of 5, she witnessed firsthand what domestic abuse looked like, and it came from a guy she should have been able to trust. She observed her father repeatedly assaulting her mother. Her mother was abused till she was unable to stand on some days. Once, she was ejected from the downstairs. She was once hit in the head by a wine bottle. Hai recalled hiding when her sister attempted to intervene on occasion. For years, she was plagued by the fear that accompanied those moments. Her fears and aspirations were shaped by that experience, which remained in her bones and accompanied her into adulthood. Later on, she acknowledged that she had entered abusive relationships herself, nearly following the pattern she had seen. Her ideal of a stable, loving family, something she had never had as a child, persisted even at that point. She discovered that achieving success at Bedford High School taught her how to live. She took on the roles of prom queen, cheered on the sidelines, edited the school newspaper, and became an honor student. She earned it, but others assumed it came easily. She pushed herself because she thought success would make her more acceptable. It was sufficient to propel her onward. She also enrolled at Cuyahoga Community College to study broadcast journalism after graduating. For a brief period, she pictured herself working behind a news desk, calmly narrating reports. Then she felt a change in herself. It dawned on her that she didn't want to cover tales. Her desire was to live them. In the realm of pageants, modeling, and acting, where self-assurance was as important as skill, she entered these fields. She had learned to struggle for space early in life. She was prepared to battle for a career now. When she was 17, everything quickly changed. She represented Ohio in the Miss Teen All-American pageant in 1985, which was an uncommon accomplishment for a black adolescent at the time. She had never experienced the kind of fame that came with her victory in music. She won Miss Ohio USA the following year, in 1986, and went on to place first runner-up in Miss USA. She became the first African-American woman to represent the United States in Miss World that year, where she competed and placed 6th. After she received the top interview score from the judges at Miss USA, doors started to open. She believed she would never be able to participate in conversations, but pageants gave her a face that the world saw. Additionally, it demonstrated to other young black ladies that they were welcome there. Success did not, however, make hardship go away. She relocated to Chicago and then New York City to pursue modeling and acting gigs following her pageant ascent. In New York, she was just 18 when she ran out of money and had to sleep in a homeless shelter until moving into a YMCA. Her mother told her it was time to learn how to support herself and declined to send her money. Later on, Hai said that experience altered her life. She did every work she could find, bartending, waiting tables, and attending auditions with little more than a hopeful attitude. After a difficult beginning, racism made the ascent even more difficult. However, every failure strengthened her tenacity, which she would use for years. Living Dolls, a sitcom, gave her her first significant musical acting debut in 1989. Despite having only 13 episodes, the sitcom started a significant trend. She was able to demonstrate to producers that she had energy, timing, and promise well beyond modeling by playing Emily Franklin. She didn't fade when the show was over. Her path was gradually altered by the further auditions and tiny roles she took on. At the time, Living Dolls seemed insignificant, but it helped her transition from a novice to someone that casting directors, music, started to remember. When she was cast by Spike Lee in Jungle Fever in 1991 as Vivian, a crack addict whose life had, music, fallen apart, it was her first significant cinematic moment. She stopped showering, didn't wear makeup, and entered music auditions looking as shattered as the character herself in an attempt to persuade him that she could play the part. Spike Lee initially questioned her ability to succeed. But he changed his mind when she came back with this unadulterated version of herself. When the film came out on June 7, 1991, critics took note of her right away. She was able to transcend the stereotype of a pretty girl in that capacity, demonstrating to the business that she had depth that few people in the music industry had noticed. She played Angela Lewis in Boomerang the following year, in 1992. When the Eddie Murphy starring movie debuted in theaters on July 1, it became a significant cultural event. Audiences connected with Hal's kind, down-to-earth persona, while Robin Given portrayed the glitzy powerhouse. She was perceived as real. Boomerang helped her establish herself as more than a rookie in Hollywood, earning over $71 million globally. In the 1990s, it helped reshape the ideal of a romantic lead for black females. She consistently chose important roles. She portrayed Kyla Richards, a mother struggling with a crack addiction who left her young kid behind, in the 1995 film Losing Isaiah. Arriving on March 17, 1995, the film sparked discussions about adoption, addiction, racism, and motherhood. Her performance was deemed fearless by critics. Although the movie did not become a box office success, her dedication made it impossible to overlook her skill. One of her most well-known metamorphoses followed in 1999 with the release of the HBO movie introducing Dorothy Dandridge. She assumed the role of Dorothy Dandridge, the first African-American actress to receive an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. On September 19, the film was released, and viewers witnessed the beauty and suffering of a woman who never got the credit she deserved. Hai won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for the part. She felt she was paying tribute to someone whose narrative had been forgotten for too long, and that was more than that. She had developed into the kind of actress that Hollywood was unable to ignore by the end of the 1990s. She continued to pick parts that called for bravery, honesty, and change. She demonstrated that sophisticated storylines belonged to black actresses as well, challenging the restrictions music placed on them. It was a gradual ascent based on desire, risk, suffering, and the fortitude that came from overcoming her own early years. In 2001, Halle Berry entered Monsters Ball with an almost wild sense of fearless energy. Letitia Musgrove had a big role. It contained extended bursts of unadulterated passion, anguish, prejudice, and suffering that might exhaust any actor. Even her own representatives cautioned her against doing the film because of its low budget in certain situations. Even so, she stated that she would do something that touched her heart to finish her career. When the cameras started rolling, she gave it her all. When the Academy Awards rolled around in 2002, she was the first black woman to win in the Best Actress category. This moment was for all the unnamed women of color who had been invisible for so long, she murmured, her voice shaking. However, as of 2025, no other black woman has achieved the same feat, thus the celebration bore an odd weight. The moment was both luminous and solitary. The history around the part continued to expand year after year, even while she continued to win a BAFTA, a Golden Globe, and a Screen Actors Guild Award for the same role. At the same time, she was advancing in another area of her profession. She took on the white hair and composed demeanor of Storm in the X-Men movie in 2000. Abruptly, the world witnessed a black lady using her hands and eyes to control the weather. It was uncommon to see women of color in strong roles in superhero movies. So, just having her there changed things. She returned in 2003 for X2, and again in 2006 when Storm took over and led the team through a crisis following Cyclops' death. As she reappeared in the future past in 2014, she was older and more shrewd, fighting till her character's last breath in a devastated world. She once claimed that because she had also felt ignored in Hollywood, she understood Storm's feelings. Although some critics wished the movies had given Storm more opportunity to shine, viewers throughout the world stuck with her image, which helped open doors that had previously been closed. Another moment that will always be a part of popular culture followed this song. When Ursula Andress emerged from the sea in an orange bikini for her role as Jinx Johnson in Die Another Day in 2002, people immediately recalled her. It became one of the most frequently replayed Bond scenes ever. She was adored by producers as a new kind of Bond girl, one who led and battled rather than just being a supporting character. Critics did not think highly of the film itself. However, she was so notable that music studios considered creating a spin-off for Jinx. It didn't take place. However, she continued to express gratitude for being a part of a company so big that its history spanned generations. Then the fall happened. Arriving in July 2004, Catwoman had a $100 million budget and the expectation that an Oscar winner could create a successful modern superhero film. Rather, the film debuted at number 3 with $16.7 million in its first weekend and quickly lost popularity. It had only grossed $82.4 million globally by the time cinemas released it, which was insufficient to cover the expenses. The Rotten Tomatoes rating was 8%. Critics dismantled it. Viewers made fun of it. Her career was rocked in a way that few anticipated. The greatest honor an actor can receive in music was just given to her. However, one failure became a shadow that haunted her for many years. Everyone was taken aback by her next move. She accepted her Razzie Music for Worst Actress in person when she attended the 25th Golden Raspberry Awards in February 2005. She chuckled her way through a speech that made news worldwide while holding her Oscar in one hand and the Razzie in the other. No matter how terribly they felt she had behaved, she even stated that they could never steal her Oscar. She later jokingly claimed to have lit the Razzie on fire. Rather than fleeing the humiliation, she faced it head-on, and the candor turned into a success in and of itself. The reaction did not go away, though. The studios started to treat her differently. In 2002, she had created history. However, following Catwoman, she continued to be offered thrillers rather than prestige dramas, such as Gothica, 2003, and Perfect Stranger, 2007, music. Rumors in the industry said she had turned into a danger. While she worked harder for every role, she saw white actresses bounce back from setbacks with ease. She went on to say that black actors are rarely permitted to fail more than once before their careers come to an end. And when Catwoman's name was mentioned, a lot of people in Hollywood began to hesitate. It was unjust and persisted for many years. But she managed to capitalize on the setback. She was aware of her value and maintained that black actresses should have the same opportunities to develop and fail as everyone else. She became a more vocal advocate for diversity in casting and fought for greater jobs and compensation. Her career became a case study of how a celebrity can be elevated and then shut out so swiftly, and how women of color are nearly always more affected by those tendencies. Executives and agents continue to use Catwoman as a cautionary tale, demonstrating how pervasive the prejudice is. She pushed herself harder than ever into action parts while carrying all that weight. She returned in 2006, music, and 2014 as Storm. Then, in 2019, she astonished everyone with her dedication in John Wick Chapter 3. She trained for up to 90 minutes 5 days a week at the age of 52. She trained with dogs, performed jiu-jitsu, and handled firearms. She performed animal flow exercises and jumped rope 500 to 1,000 times a day till her body ached. She continued to film despite breaking 3 ribs, music. Her character suffered blows that most actors steer clear of while fighting with her legs. And because of the physical intensity she brought to the screen, she gained a lot of respect. She came to the realization that she needed greater control as she got older. She stepped behind the camera as a result. She inked a big contract with Netflix in 2021 to produce and appear in new shows. She desired narratives that depicted women of color as rich and multifaceted. She wanted to take on parts that had been refused to her. Accompanying producers such as Viola Davis and Reese Witherspoon, she entered a new realm of influence. This journey brought her to Bruised in 2020. She starred in it, directed it, and produced it. She had lost her path and was 54 years old, practicing 4 to 5 hours a day to be an MMA fighter. After making its debut at the Toronto Music International Film Festival, the movie was released on Netflix. She rewrote the screenplay to put a middle-aged black woman at the center to demonstrate that these tales were worthy of being heard. She claimed that no one else could understand what she saw in it, so she went down a hallway yelling that she would direct this film. She was pushed both physically and mentally, making it one of the hardest things she had ever done. It was a watershed, though. It was as if she had regained control of her story. Bruised allowed her to discuss aging and second chances candidly. It allowed her to display a living, breathing body. It enabled her to communicate what it's like to be ignored while continuing to fight. Those who hardly ever saw themselves on screen found a connection with the movie. It demonstrated that she was still capable of surprising audiences in Hollywood. And then there was something even larger. Her multi-picture contract with Netflix was reached. With her role in The Union and her preparations for the action film Maud vs. Ma with Angelina Jolie, she once again became a global attraction. She was seen as someone who could transcend national boundaries and engage viewers from a wide range of nations by streaming services. After entering her first marriage in January 1993, Halle Berry briefly felt as though life was welcoming her. She was rapidly advancing in Hollywood, while David Justice was dominating baseball. However, the gap between their worlds continued to grow. He later said that he found it difficult to be married to someone who did not conform to the conventional notion of a settled wife because she spent lengthy months away on sets. They had just been dating for 5 months when they proposed. Therefore, the foundation was already unstable. After they split up in February 1996, things became difficult. Halle filed a restraining order after alleging domestic abuse. A violent incident during that period caused her to lose about 80% of her hearing in one ear, she subsequently disclosed. David Justice continued to deny being the culprit, and she never identified the culprit. The shadow cast by that quiet is still there. A tale with many wounds but no obvious conclusion. She gave it another go years later. She wed Eric Benet, a gifted R&B singer with a problematic personal life and a charming smile, in 2001. She initially trusted their relationship. Cracks, however, began to appear. Encouraged by Hal's mother, who was attempting to keep the marriage intact, he checked himself into a sex addiction treatment center in 2002. Every action was seen by the public, and the tabloids made the narrative humorous. It became a joke even among late-night hosts. Halle was sobbing behind the commotion. She discovered that he had been unfaithful to her during their marriage, and the humiliation of witnessing the public make fun of her suffering caused her to lose her mind. It ended by 2005. She later stated that she always thought the justification was a front for betrayal and never thought he was a real sex addict. When she met Gabriel Aubry after the divorce, things temporarily improved. Music. When their daughter Naha was born in 2008, things appeared to be going well. However, the relationship had soured by 2010, and a protracted custody dispute had started. Halle planned to relocate to France with Naala in 2012 so that she could be with her fiancé, Olivier Martinez. The move was blocked by Gabriel, and the courts agreed. When she was mandated to pay $16,000 in child support each month, she was faced with an additional hardship. She thought that Gabriel's lifestyle, rather than their daughter, was the main beneficiary. When she accused him of making racially offensive remarks about Naha, the arguments became more intense. The payouts eventually decreased to $8,000 in 2021 after several years. But the bitterness persisted. In 2012, tension peaked on Thanksgiving. Gabriel and Olivier Martinez got into a physical altercation outside of Hall's house that morning. The paparazzi captured it all. The court issued restraining orders after Gabriel appeared in custody hearings with facial bruising. When Halle and Olivier eventually got married, the turmoil continued into their third marriage. There were storms in their union, too. Their divorce dragged on until 2023, despite the fact that their marriage terminated in 2015. In addition to $4.3%, music, of any income over $2 million, the court ordered her to pay him about $8,000 in child support each month. He was reliant on their payments. Despite her weariness, she had to continue working, earning money, and showing up for work. She claimed Olivier was violent and difficult and had rejected co-parenting therapy when she applied for sole custody of their kid in 2024. The more the disagreements went on, the more judges leaned toward her. Then she experienced an unexpected event. In 2022, music, she woke up at the age of 54 with excruciating vaginal agony following a night out with her partner Van Hunt. She went straight to her doctor, believing it might be an illness. The diagnosis was shocking. It was the most severe case of herpes the doctor had ever seen. I was taken aback. Van Hunt and she both had negative tests. She sensed a problem. When she began investigating her symptoms, she found that they were consistent with menopause, a time marked by pain, dryness, and irregular cycles. Later, in 2024, she told First Lady Jill Biden the story during the appropriate daily summit. The misdiagnosis was evidently not uncommon. In the US, only 20% of Obgyns receive formal menopausal education. Because of that disparity, millions of women suffer, and Hai felt compelled to take action. She transformed her health company Respin into Respin Health before the beginning of 2025. It has evolved from a lifestyle concept to a comprehensive menopause support system intended to provide women with practical solutions. She partnered with KLA Ventures and contributed millions of her personal funds to create something nationwide. More than 150 data points are used by the service to generate customized monthly plans. These days, women have direct access to menopause specialists, professional sessions, and private community spaces. Reston Health was rapidly expanding and had already assisted over 50,000 women nationwide by March 2025. Hai expressed her desire for a sense of renewal for all women. She became a public advocate as a result of that notion. In December 2025, she publicly criticized Gavin Newsom at the New York Times DealBook Summit. She claimed that because he vetoed Assembly Law 432, a bipartisan law on menopausal coverage, he shouldn't be the next president. He had twice vetoed such legislation. Despite his claims that the measure will increase healthcare expenses, supporters, including Halle, maintained that the bill had already been amended to take that into account. Newsom's crew commended her enthusiasm. However, no new laws were passed, and the battle continued. Hai continued bringing up the disregard for midlife women. She spoke from personal experience when she discussed rebirth. Menopause, according to her, is a new beginning rather than an end. When she revived her voice, brand, and career, she was 58 years old. She reminded everyone that women over 50 barely make up 3% of leading positions in Hollywood's music industry. In 2024, she traveled to the U.S. Capitol to request financing for research, music, and educational initiatives. Medical case studies and evidence that one lady with the courage to stand up may change an entire industry were based on her own misdiagnosis. As one of the only black women to serve on the competition jury in the 78-year history of the Cannes Film Festival, she did so in May 2025. She judged 21 films over 10 days while sitting with Juliette Binoche and Jeremy Strong. She described it as one of her career's high points and claimed that her 30 years of acting enabled her to perceive things from perspectives that others couldn't. Her participation made the event feel more inclusive and provided long-lost voices a chance to be heard. At K2, the drama was less intense. Music, she had intended to wear a spectacular gown by Gaurav Gupta with a wide sweeping train, but the new festival regulations forbade both excessively large trains and nudity. She had to change into a striped Jack Moss dress at the last minute. "I'll follow the rules," she added, laughing it off. The original gown had been beautiful, though, and the occasion generated a lot of conversation. She continued to draw attention on the red carpet despite the shift. She had attended the Met Gala for the first time in nearly a decade just a few days prior, on May 5. She was dressed in a transparent Laquan Smith dress embellished with Japanese bugle beads. The creation process took around 1,000 hours. She wore it with a diamond Cartier necklace and a short tuxedo blazer. For days, people talked about the appearance. She was 58 years old and proving to the world that she still had the spark and confidence to make any carpet into her stage. She had a stable connection with Van Hunt over this entire period. Through a common friend, they first connected in 2020, and by 2025, they had been dating for 5 years. She did not clearly say yes when he proposed. She learned caution from her previous marriages. She claimed that a ring was not necessary to prove her devotion. Their acquaintances thought he liked her very much, despite her admission that they would get married soon. She appeared at ease, understanding, and supported by him. Compared to the storms she had previously experienced, it felt different when they shared little, beautiful moments online and appeared together at events. She was more than just an actress and former star by 2025. She was advocating for women who felt underrepresented. She promoted the Midlife Women's Health Act and the Advancing Menopause Care and developed her menopause education platform. She discussed racial issues, age, and how society attempts to diminish women as they get older. She referred to this period as her time of self-defining.